Hello and welcome to the SE25 cast. Today the panel discuss Palace relegating Stoke, Jamabi's newfound wealth, and the virtues of trains and drinking versus coaches and sleeping.
Right, welcome to the SE25 cast. I am D-Stock, your friendly neighbourhood podcast saviour. I'm joined by Jake and Jamibi today for episode 15, the relegation of the Potters. Not Harry Potter. The fan fiction of him going down is very different. This is Paul Lambert and his miserable bunch of kicking, Arsenal-kin, moany, disreputable, grumpy. I've run out of words for
Cretins.
Shaqiri. Thank you. That's a cretinous Midlanders knobheads that Palace managed to beat 2-1. And yeah, so Jamibi went up there. Jake, did you watch the game?
I also went up there, yeah.
Wow, excellent. And you boys got the train at stupid o'clock in the morning, or did either of you stay over?
I was unfortunate enough to be club coach.
Man.
Yeah, I was at 6:30 from the grounds, I think maybe. But up and down in a day, it wasn't too bad. Slept on the way back. So long day though.
Yeah, I was on the train. My sister and her boyfriend, a couple of other guys, and it was just I remember going from the train from Euston at 8:04, and instantly, as soon as we sat down, first can. That's it. Just like 4 cans up there, and then instantly to the half star. It was just wow, like the amount of drink and stuff. That's why I was saying before in our little introduction speech before we started recording that I'm probably going to be the worst person on this pod because I can't really remember most of the game, but we'll see how it goes.
I think someone else who didn't want to remember the game is probably every single Stoke fan in the stadium, because I think we'll talk quickly about the highlights of Palace through the game, but if we talked about the Stoke lowlights, this would be like the never-ending story. They were fucking abysmal. But I think to not go maybe straight into the Palace boys, one of the things that I wanted to mention, and obviously you chaps were there and perhaps saw a different view on it, I thought the ref was very good. Considering Stoke, they weren't perhaps as aggressive as every Arsenal fan would lead you to think they were, but there were some fairly tasty tackles being thrown around, and some good advantages were played that led to Loftus-Cheek getting a couple of chances. Zaha got a chance just from playing decent advantages. Do you think that's a fair statement, chaps, or am I being too generous towards the ref and the linos here?
I think you're right, actually. It's something that is very easy to criticise, and almost every pod I feel like there's a couple of decisions that go against us, and I'm always quick to highlight them. I didn't even really think about the ref this game, I guess, because it didn't seem a big deal. I think Stoke got 6 yellows in the second half, and I think the only questionable one I thought was maybe, I haven't seen it back, so I might be wrong, but Shaqiri went in with an elbow or an arm on Loftus-Cheek, and it looked quite bad and malicious. I thought that maybe could have been more, but other than that, there aren't any decisions I thought he got wrong. So yeah, good point, definitely.
I don't know if I was just on a mad one, but I can remember just screaming and shouting like most of the time at just everything that was going like a little bit wrong. I was screaming and shouting, but at the same time, when I think back to it now, I sort of agree with Jake that a lot of games you kind of think, I'm so pissed off at the referee this game, but I know we won, but I didn't leave the stadium thinking that ref was a twat. So yeah, I sort of agree. Yeah,
one of the conversations we had in our house watching it with was Junior pointing out to me that Wilf wasn't anywhere near as angry as he can be, and certainly as often quickly angry. And that's what kind of highlighted to me the ref thing was actually Wilf was, you wouldn't say protected, because the Stoke players were still going for him just the same as everyone else. But I think particularly in the second half, when the yellow cards started coming out like they were sweets, I think so, most of the Stoke players despite their abysmal performance, were aware they didn't want to get sent off. So those who had got a yellow certainly held back a little bit. I think Eric Peters sprung to mind. Interesting, I think, if Charlie Adden had actually got on the pitch and we'd seen some 60-yard attempts, but I think we've tried positives from the Lino ref side. Let's try and move on to the Palace. I'm not going to start talking about Loftus-Cheek because I've got less positive to say than everyone else. But he, on the Twitter, the forums and things, seemed to come out as perhaps our star man on the day. What about you, Jimmy? Who's your best player?
I don't want to speak about Loftus as well, but I sort of agree with you there. I'm really surprised at how much praise he's getting, but I don't know if it's just me on the day just not really seeing everything. But honestly, I seem to pick Patrick every week just because he scores. But it's either him and MacArthur, just like last time. I just seem to think that they're just all there and everywhere. And I thought Benteke even had from what I saw anyway, it was getting near the end of the game after half time and stuff. But I mean, he didn't. I think for the second goal, wasn't he part of it where he sort of chested it down or something and then played it forward or something? So I mean, just don't want to underestimate Benteke's presence on the field, even if he is shit, basically. But yeah, I'll go with Patrick, I guess.
Yeah, no, but Benteke was really good. I think Loftus-Cheek, I think the issue with him is he's got a lot of technical ability, and this one that you can tell has really been nurtured at a big club, I think anyway, just in the way that he plays. He's got a real aura about him and a swagger. When he touches the ball, he doesn't look like he's going to lose it, and he always seems to know where he's passing or where he's running. I think part of the issue of the potential overpraise is it's just a young English player that everybody loves to hype up. Coming up to the World Cup time, let's get him on the plane. He's going to be amazing. We need good young English talent, and I think he has been very good in the last couple of games. But I think to some extent, so have we going forward. We've had a bit more freedom going forward, and I think that's when he's been able to shine a bit more. In terms of man of the match, I think there were quite a few very good performances. I find it quite hard to look past James MacArthur. He's just such a good player, and again, another very nice finish on his weak foot to the far corner. But good performance all round. I thought Hennessy was all right, actually, as well, to be honest.
So the first big decision that came to Roy was an injury to Joel Ward, who anyone who had even caught scent of Twitter this week with the hashtag CPFC had seen about 8 squillion people asking Palace or Roy to start the game with Wan-Bissaka, and he didn't. Roy knows best and started Wardy. I'm interested in your guys' opinion, A, of why Wardy started, and perhaps more importantly, the substitution bringing on Martin Kelly, which I don't think I've seen my son look like that since one of the big twists in a kid's film, and he just the jaw was on the floor. So I can't imagine what the reaction must have been in the crowd to Martin Kelly getting stripped off. So Jake, what did you think?
Sorry, I was just trying to Google how tall Aaron Wan-Bissaka is. 183. So he's about 6 foot, is he then, Wan-Bissaka? That does surprise me. Because I initially thought when I saw it, okay, Kelly's a physical player. They're a physical team. Crouch has thrown himself about a bit. Maybe it's to try and counteract that. There must be a reason. He's brought Wan-Bissaka in. He clearly likes him. He's trusted him to play in some very high-profile games this season. I mean, a couple of them, his arms were twisted a bit. But even last week, he brought on Fosu Mensah, didn't he? So I can only imagine something's not quite right. I can't understand it if not. Other than Kelly being a bit more physical, Stoke on a particularly quick team. But I feel like he would have been fantastic, Wan-Bissaka. With his pace, he could have been so useful going forward. We saw how useful Van Aanholt was. Yeah, I feel very bad for Wan-Bissaka because it does just sort of feel like he got picked up when we needed him, and now he's been completely dropped. But as you say, we've got to trust him more, haven't we? He must know what he's doing.
Yeah, I agree as well. When Joe Ward got injured, I was one of the first around my little bit to be going Wan-Bissaka, like ready for him to come on. But at the same time, is he trying to do it to just know that he's like quite good and doesn't want anyone to come like preying on him in like the transfer window? That's another thing. Maybe think about if he done like sick in the last like whatever games that he's been playing in, and we played him for the rest of them, and he was really good. You never know who's going to come praying for someone like that. But with Kelly as well, I know Kelly gets a lot of hate, but I guess he's quite experienced as well. So he's not by any means a shit player, well, in my opinion. But
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, he's coming on. He knows what he's doing, and well, he done all right, really. So, well, saying that, we conceded like a couple of minutes after he came on. I know it wasn't his fault, but yeah.
No, I think you're both right. I think there's clearly something going on that we aren't aware of, whether that's at club level or just with Roy and Aaron. There's a point that when Ward was back and Roy was hinting that that Wan-Bissaka was going to get dropped, one of the journalists on one of the press conferences asked Roy even what he would be doing. What can Wan-Bissaka do to get back in the first team? And Roy's response was, well, Aaron should come and talk to me. Aaron should come and talk to me because he should feel aggrieved at playing so well and, having lost his place in the team. And I can't imagine that Roy being, his time in the game, his state-like way of carrying him, while we've all been having a complete spastic fit in the stadium, and you see, Pep going up and down on the sidelines, you see Klopp going berserk, you see Roy standing there calm. I think that must come through in some expertise. And if Wan-Bissaka hasn't come to find him at training, I'd like to think Roy went to find him and say, look, you're not getting a game, but it's because ABC, and those could be anything. And I'd like to think that Roy, particularly, he seems to be keen on staying next year. I think we'll see what happens in the friendlies in the summer. I think we'll see what happens next year. He may feel that he's just too raw. He may feel that he's, the last two games Wan-Bissaka played, he gave a goal away in each game. And maybe Roy felt that we just had to go with experience in that position. We're never going to know. Roy doesn't seem the type to do a kiss and tell book at any point, but I felt, kind of to both your points, that when Kelly came on, he didn't let the side down at all. And he does fit the profile of playing Stoke. They're not full of Zaha-esque wingers. They are, Crouch was on at the time. Who's there? 6 goals in the entire campaign. What's his name?
Mame Biram Diouf.
That's it. That Diouf, again, big, tall, not massively quick. I would have thought Kelly's probably as capable as Wan-Bissaka there. But that was really the first talking point in the game. I think the outside of that, I think we get into the goals. And I think the first goal was, for me, a really nice team goal to see Loftus-Cheek actually doing what he gets hyped for, which is driving the ball forwards, seeing Zaha moving into space, seeing Townsend moving around, and actually Stoke. I mean, that was, for me, that our first goal was probably the biggest underlining of Stoke just not being good enough to stay in this division. Whether it was Paul Lambert, whether it was Mark Hughes, every Stoke player in that defence just went to the wrong position and left Zaha open and left MacArthur open, and Loftus-Cheek just had to make his choice, and he did. Was the sentiment around the goal that it was a good goal in the stadium, or was the sentiment more that it was a Loftus-Cheek moment of inspiration or a MacArthur moment? What was it like, Jamebi?
Well, at that stage, I'm trying to remember the goal to be honest, but yeah,
It was the MacArthur overlap.
Yeah, to be honest, it was just one of them things. I think it was that, not the Patrick one, even though the Patrick one was more clear of like he's gonna bloody score that. When it all just happened, and it just seemed to just flow. Like, what was the goal? The second goal we scored against Leicester. When everything just flows in and it's just like pass, 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 pass. And I just remember going absolutely berserk when the goal went in. So that's yeah. I mean, I did watch the goals again. Tuesday. And I probably remember the second one better than the first one, so I'll let Jake take over on this one.
When you were talking about Loftus-Cheek's involvement in the first goal, I was wondering where you were going, because I'm pretty sure it was a clumsy foul on Shaqiri that led to the free kick that inevitably went in, and I thought,
Yeah,
is he going to go full circle here and turn on Loftus-Cheek? But no, it was good play. I think it was at a very crucial time, because although we were looking better, and as we don't really need to go into, well, definitely not just yet anyway, Stoke were looking terrible. I think you could feel we were almost starting to get a bit nervous, because it was getting, okay, it's been 10 minutes since we haven't scored, or 10 minutes since they scored, 20 minutes since they scored, 30 minutes since they scored, and it was getting to that time where you think if we don't score soon, are Stoke just going to somehow see this out? And it fell to MacArthur, and I think we were celebrating before it even hit it, because we just knew he was going to score, like the form he's in at the moment. I didn't think I thought it just worked like as Jamebi said, really, as a good team goal. I didn't think anyone around me was saying, oh, that was, top quality by anyone individually. But it was more just Stoke being unpicked and not very good. And us just looking pretty good in attack and looking like we really want to score. Really, yeah.
No, I don't think that's unreasonable. It definitely was a great team goal. I think our second goal was similarly a decent team goal if the actual through ball to Van Aanholt came from Ryan Shawcross, whether unintentionally diverting Zaha's through ball to be the through ball Zaha had hoped for. And yeah, I mean, Pat, I forget the game it was either the last game or the one before, where Pat was 1-on-1 and you're thinking, oh no. This time around, Pat did what he was supposed to do and just slid it in a straight line, leaving Jack Butland, I mean, literally having an abortion in the middle of the penalty area. Jake, what was your recollection of that goal?
I think the beers were sitting in by this point. I was very happy that Shawcross wanted to continue making sure we stay up and they go down, because obviously he cleared the one off the line that they almost scored against us at Selhurst, and he seemed to be doing his best to allow us to score for fun. It looked like on Saturday. It was good. I'm happy for Patrick. Always happy when he gets goals. And again, as you said, he looks composed these days. I don't know what it is, but his second half of the season, is that 4 goals or so, I think. And yeah, it just falls to him, and it's another one. You just think, yeah, it's going to be a goal. I was a bit sorry for Zaha that it did take the touch, because I think it would have been a very, very nice goal had he have just slipped it through. Van Aanholt got on the end of it, and it just went straight in. But yeah, good goal.
Yeah, I obviously agree with that. It was a good goal, but that was the one that somehow I remember that goal more than first goal, to be honest. But it was one of them that, like what you were saying, don't step about MacArthur's goal. As soon as Pat got that, I knew that was going in. But he's done similar as well. The goal. I know the goal against United was like a quick free kick and stuff, but he's still basically 1-on-1 on the keeper, and he seems to be one of the best like finishers, because you just think That's Benteke. He's probably going to be in the Palace away end. You know what I mean? By the time he's shot it. But yeah, I agree with you, Jake, as well. He's come into it the last couple of games. I know I'm just looking at the thing now. He scored against obviously Stoke, Leicester, United, and Chelsea. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was one of you guys who was saying on Discord, but pretty sure it might have been someone in the stadium saying that he's probably one of our best finishers at the moment. With just for stuff like that, if I can't think of anyone else I'd want one-on-one on the keeper at the moment than Patrick Van Aanholt sort of thing, because he's just finishes them. So yeah.
I think he's certainly played his way into being one of our penalty takers. If we have any sort of backups for Luca required, because he does look calm, he does look assured, and with the exception of a couple, he absolutely larrups them in each time. Now, you've both made a good point about MacArthur, the first goal, and Pack, the second goal, where as soon as it's at their feet, that's it, you know it's going in. There was a chance in the game for me that I was absolutely sure was going to be a goal. It was another Palace getting towards the byline, cutting back amid a Stoke defence disarray, and Zaha on the penalty spot, on his left foot, the entire goal, with the exception of this lanky streak of purple piss standing in the middle, and he managed to blaze it full on. You know, someone in row 27 has still got a fucking splitting headache from that shot. What did you think there? Were you expecting the goal, or Zaha on his left foot wasn't going to happen?
Absolutely. I thought it was a goal. Like, just the form Zaha's in at the moment, and you could tell he was so frustrated, because even at time, I think he probably could have taken about 8 touches if he wanted to. Like, there was no one getting near him. But it's just that's just the sort of thing for me that I don't think he's top 6 ready, and I'm not sure if he ever will be, because sometimes his decision making in situations like that, just you think, it's Zaha, it's got to be like he's at his best month ever. He's probably at his peak, or he's at his peak performance this season. He's going to score, and somehow he doesn't even get close. And you just think, is that the same Zaha we saw last week? It's just, I'm frustrated for him, because I know he probably looks back on those situations and thinks, how did I manage to mess that up? But it seemed so good. And then it fell to Zaha, and it just didn't feel like the same as falling to Van Aanholt or MacArthur. And it's just been such a weird season that you're more confident with your midfielders or defenders getting shots than you are with your strikers. Like, it seems so backwards.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Patrick Van Aanholt there or MacArthur, then yeah, but I felt sorry for him as well when he banged it over. I think I seem to remember watching the replay more than I do in real life. But yeah, you could see that was horrific. So yeah.
Yeah, I think in Wilf's head, I think he's celebrating, not necessarily before he's kicked it, but I think there's that moment of, fuck, I'm going to score. And then that release of, oh my God, what have I done? Because when you do, you listen to Roy, you see the other players, no one gives you the impression that Wilf isn't given 100% on the training ground. He clearly gives 100% on the pitch. You want those to go in for him. He's the kind of player that his work rate deserves a goal each week or deserves an assist. And I think it was kind of the just rewards for Wilf that not only did we win, but he was involved in each goal, almost not playing necessarily an active part, but by being an active participant that wasn't on the ball. And that's a part of Wilf's game that's really grown with him being up front. I only want to cover it quickly because I think in the off season we're going to cover it loads. But just quickly about Loftus-Cheek being Pony. He's awesome going forwards. There's no doubt. And I've repeated it on the Discord. I've repeated it on the sub. I think I've said it on pods. Him in our half of the pitch, or him losing the ball in the opposition half of the pitch, he just doesn't work hard enough for me. Their goal came from him losing the ball, from you could charitably say getting caught unawares. Less charitably, he's dicking around with it near our own penalty box, where that should be going into, either row 50 or just their end of the pitch. I don't care how it gets there. And then at least when he's trying to get it back, which I'll give him credit for, because if he'd done that against Brighton, they wouldn't have scored their second goal. He just puts his hands all over Shaqiri, and big lad. I'm sure no one's ever taught him the, you're 5'0", this is how to fall over stuff. But just putting your hands on Shaqiri anywhere near our box, you know what's going to happen. And I was really disappointed. But, okay, accidents happen. And then the entire wall jumps, except for Ruben. And he does that kind of slightly, not dipping his head. He's not trying to duck out the way. And I get if he jumped, his entire face is getting smushed by a 1,000,000-mile-an-hour shot. There are so many opportunities for that Stoke goal not to have happened. And unfortunately, all roads for me come back to Ruby. I'm happy to stop there if you've got nothing to add. But if you want to go in deep on Ruben, now's your opportunity, chaps.
It's absolutely fair enough. And I think if we lose this game 1-0, and especially if we lost that game 1-0 and we didn't beat Leicester, we would be fuming. I think it's only because he's maybe made up for it in his, as you say, attacking contributions. That's why it doesn't seem so bad. But it was sloppy, and it's definitely an area of his game that's incomplete. He's got that sort of confidence and air about him going forwards, but you're definitely right. On the defensive, it's one of those like last minute when your striker's trying to make a tackle in the penalty box and you just think, oh, he's going to give away a penalty here. Just get him as far away from the ball as possible because we're going to make mistakes. And I think it's most disappointing because I haven't seen the free kick back, and to hear that it came off him and he hasn't jumped is quite poor, because you think surely you've given the ball away, mistake, you fouled him sloppily, mistake, make up for it. Don't let their only half decent player have any chance of scoring. Just get up, get your head onto it and get it out. So that is disappointing, but that's probably what he's taught with Chelsea, isn't it, really? Like being an attacker?
Yeah, that's it for me. He's come from a club where he's kind of a winger or a number 10, and I doubt they've taught him that, because at Palace, you've only got to look at Townsend, Zaha before Pulis, Balassi before Pulis, Benteke generally. These boys don't track very well, and when they do track, they make Paul Scholes' tackles look like he's Franco Baresi. So I'm happy to forgive him, particularly because he adds so much going forward. But for me, it's and I think we can draw a line under it here. It's part of the whole is he worth 25 million conversation, because to have a player for that much money that's still just about prospect and potential, particularly keeping in mind his injury history this season, it's I've made my point and I'll shut up about it until either the next time he costs us a goal or the summer. Next question. Now we're going to probably use this as the how poo were Stoke, but Jamebi, I'm going to read out the list of Stoke players from the starting 11. I'm not going to cover the subs because they were literally so toilet. I'd be offended if you chose any one of them. I think, would any of these players be a sensible addition to Palace's next season squad? Jack Butland, Glenn Johnson, Ryan Shawcross, somebody Zuma, Eric Peters, Xherdan Shaqiri, Joe Allen, somebody Ndiaye, somebody Bauer, something Diouf, and Peter Crouch.
I'm probably going to go with the popular opinion of saying Butland. for sure. And I quite liked Zuma when he went there. Didn't he go there on loan first, or is he? He's not on loan now, is he? Did they buy him?
I think he's on loan. I think, but I'm
Yeah,
not
I
sure.
don't know. I reckon he could be all right as well. He seemed just because he looks like the guy from Star Wars as well. To be fair, you know, Finn.
I thought
I'll
he meant
take him
like
just
Han
for
Solo.
that. No, yeah, I would take him as well if we could. And like I know Shaqiri is one that everyone's gonna say as well, but I probably don't know the rest of their team enough to even comment on him. I know, according to the Palace fans, Shawcross is never going to play for England, so I'm assuming that's a bad thing. So I won't take him. But yeah, I go with Butland and Zuma, depending if Zuma's actually there on loan or permanent. Sure.
Yeah, he is on loan.
All right.
I just can't believe you haven't mentioned 2 Meter Peter. He's such a useful player, I think. Honestly, the amount of I don't know. I just think in those games where you've got nothing in the last minute, you just chuck him on, you get a cross in, you get a throw in, just try and hit him. And like Tompkins is big, Tompkins can jump fairly well, but you know Crouch is making him look like 5'6". He just absolutely towers over players. And I know at the moment he's only got about 40 minutes in him max, but I just think for the sort of value he'd be, and I don't think the wages would be much, and just the fact that he's a freak, he's great. He's just so great, isn't he? You just look at him and he makes me smile anyway. I'd take Peter Crouch.
I'm amazed. I was going to say, I'm amazed neither of you said Joe Allen. I was actually quite impressed. The only Stoke player who I thought...
The Welsh Shavy.
Yeah, exactly. I'd take the Welsh Shavy because I think as MacArthur gets older, Kabaye can do kind of 60 minutes at full Kabaye speed before it turns into watching me run around. And the other one from the other day was Eric Bauer. I actually thought he was pretty decent. I know nothing about him outside of watching him on our game the other day. But yeah, I mean, for me, it would be those two. Ryan Shawcross can do one. Kurt Zuma, we've got like Sacco, we've got defenders with a mistake in them. I'm not sure. He's fast and he's big, but yeah, I'm not sure. Crouchy, I mean, I genuinely think we've got the best football tweeter in our squad in Pat. I don't think we need another top quality tweeter because all it's going to do is detract from Pat's tweet. So I'm happy without Crouchy.
Yeah.
Butland, I don't know. Butland is a bit like the Fraser Forster conversation. Pre-injury Butland, pre-injury Fraser Forster, absolutely, I would, happily, maybe swap my firstborn for one of them to come to Palace. This season's Jack Butland, I thought he actually did really poorly against Van Aanholt because I think another day, if you're in Van Aanholt's face quicker, make yourself big. That's a hard shot to put away. And we've credited Pat with how good the finish was, but if that's De Gea, is Butland, is Van Aanholt finishing that? I'm not so sure. So yeah, Butland, I don't think he's covered himself in glory this season, but he did cry, and everyone likes a millionaire crier. So
I think. Sorry, just quickly before we move on, the only 2 other players who potentially interest me, and I know they weren't in the 18, so that might be why you didn't mention them, but that Choupo-Moting, whenever I saw him, and that wasn't a lot, he looked pretty useful, and I'm pretty sure they bought him rather than loaned. And the other one, who I was trying to inquire on the Stoke subreddit because I didn't find out much. I know Hesse had I think it was like a premature birth or something, so he missed a load of games because of that. But I know a lot of their fans weren't very happy with him. They were saying like he's been like a real problem for them this year. But I thought those 2 looked really good. And I think Hesse's going back to PSG, but God knows he's not getting any games there if he can't get games for Stoke. So yeah, I think out of the rest of their squad, they'd maybe be the only 2 that would interest me.
I think they're both a decent shout. I can't bring myself to say Hesse. I am going to have to say Jesse. But Jesse, do you know what? When he went to Stoke, I'm not going to say I was raging because that would be a bit strong, but I'd like to think we were at least in for Jesse, trying to get someone like that, because on paper, that's the proper continental fox in the box that's going to play well with our squad. Choupo-Moting, I know nothing about. I've just Googled him, and he's got a wife that looks like a sexy cartoon character. I'd recommend Googling her. Her name's Nevin Choupo-Moting. Yeah, she's a sexy cartoon character, and sometimes he wears glasses to look smart, apparently. I wouldn't take him on the basis that he's lived in the Midlands, so he's probably too good for Croydon. But yeah, and Jesse, I'm not sure. Now, I think that's another one of those similar to Joselu that went to Newcastle.
Yeah, fair.
These slightly fluffy, slightly like Bojan Kirkic, and the Premier League doesn't take very kindly to little flair player centre forwards. Occasionally, you'll find a diamond in the rough with like a Luis Suarez or a Sergio Aguero, but inevitably there's a lot more Dwight Gales than there are Sergio Agueros out there.
Yeah.
Jamibi, what have you got to add?
Just wondering what you guys actually thought about. I know, Jake, you went up there. I don't know if you spoke to any Stoke fans up there, but when me and Amelia were at the Harvester, a Stoke fan joined us on our table, basically.
Yeah.
And I had the program open. I said, "Oh, look at this." I don't know if you not got the program, but on the second page, it had like all the statistics of our last couple of meetings, like the last 5 games, stuff like that. And I remember seeing, I think it was you, Don't Step, actually, that put that tweet in about us doing really well against them. Or wasn't it like 7 out of the last 9 games or something?
That's right. Yeah.
So we were sitting there, and I was speaking to this guy, and like we had a couple of drinks and stuff, and then it was similar to Huddersfield. It's like when we played Huddersfield, and we was in the Weatherspoons at Huddersfield, and we were just sitting there, and then like a bunch of Huddersfield fans were behind us, and then we just spanned round and just started talking to them, and it was just like they were just so nice. And this guy like was just so down to earth, but you could just see it, and everything he said, it was just like they've been sort of they know that it was going down weeks ago, basically. And he said that, and then another couple of Stoke fans got involved, so there was about 4 of them, and they were just like, yeah, I think we're going down and stuff like that. But by the end of it, like, I know it's not our fault they're getting relegated. Put this, I know we've got 6 points in them, but obviously it's not, we're just the final coffin. But what did you guys think of it being us? Like, did you feel bad after it, or did you just think, fuck it, like we've relegated a team and feel good?
To be honest with you, I didn't really give a shit. In the sense that it's what you're saying about like bumping into decent fans of a decent club in the pub. That's my recollection of Watford. When we went to the playoff final, we went to a pub that had Palace fans in it and Watford fans in it, and we sat with some Watford fans, same as we sat with some Palace fans, kind of just around a big table, and everyone was really pally, super friendly, and you didn't leave feeling, I really want to fuck them over. You're left with, well, actually, if they go up, well, good luck to them. Maybe we'll get it next year. And the same again with the FA Cup semi. When the final came around, we got so many plastic United fans in the same pub where I'd never had trouble. Any Wembley visits, you got United fans dancing on tables, throwing glasses at Palace fans, and it was just like, you bunch of cunts.
Yeah.
I think there's a few of those clubs in the Premier League now where actually you look around and you think, with the exception of Brighton, the rest of you are all right. We're outside the top 6 or 7 who expect to win everything. Outside of Brighton, and there's a little bit around kind of Bournemouth, but I think it's more for me Bournemouth and where their money comes from than actually the Bournemouth fans. The Bournemouth fans seem all right. And yeah, someone's got to do it. They've fucked themselves over the entire season. I think if we got relegated, we wouldn't give a shit who actually relegated us in the match, because it would be every chance Benteke had missed. It would be every time when Hennessy dropped the ball. It would be every stupid injury. And I think this is where I haven't talked to a Stoke fan about where they lay the blame, whether it's Mark Hughes, whether it's the club in general, whether it's a particular player. I think at our club, you could see there were failings in the last 12 to 18 months that could have led to a relegation. And I suspect that gives us perhaps the perspective to look at Stoke and see, yeah, you've signed Choupo-Moting, you've signed a few other players, and it's just not worked out. You've had shit luck. But yeah, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it.
Yeah, I can't say I particularly felt bad. I think the only Stoke fans I did speak to, speaking to them, it felt like they'd been gone months. Like they're just lost all hope. And I think Paul Lambert was to blame a lot. They from what they said anyway, they really weren't fans of him. Like stupid formations, fielding funny players, trying to bring players into the squad that wasn't working. I think, was it that Tyrese Campbell they brought on? I'm not sure if he touched it. I know they had to throw on someone, and he was their only attacker left on the bench. You don't want to throw on Ireland, Adam, Cameron, or Fletcher. But I think he's got very few points, hasn't he, in his games?
Yeah, I think the Tyrese Campbell thing was, it was like a Roy of the Rovers story. You know, Palace can point to like Ibra Sakaja keeping them up. Carlisle can point to like Jimmy Glass and that crazy goal. It was like that. It's like we've got nothing left on this bench, and you've got internationals on that bench. You've got Scottish internationals. You've got, I forget what the other one's from, like France or wherever it is, and you're bringing on a kid who's barely ever played in a game that. And I get that you can say to that kid, you know, come on, and you're a hero. And actually, if you do nothing, it kind of doesn't affect you. This game's just a complete dead rubber for you. You score and you're a hero. But yeah, if that's the best Stoke have got to offer, and fuck me, their defending was diabolical for the entire game. It's hard for me personally to feel sorry for Stoke in that situation.
Oh yeah, off the back of that, I'm very happy they went down. They actually disappointed me with how poor they were. There was just no fight at all. As you say, calamitous defending, and that's coming from some questionable defensive performance I think we've put out this season. I definitely didn't feel any sympathy. You know, they'd been hard done by, like maybe people feel about West Brom. I know I sort of feel like West Brom maybe deserved a bit more, considering they've done so well these last few games. You know, how can West Brom take points off Liverpool, United and Spurs in the last, 4 weeks, and they can't even get a fucking point against us? It's embarrassing. It's frustrating me now just thinking about it, but there's just no fight. Like, they didn't deserve anything out of that game. They barely had a shot on target. They barely had what did they have? One corner. It was just so sloppy. Like, they just looked like a team that were beaten before they came out onto the pitch.
I think for my part, they were. I think the Premier League has got used to like a dead wood, basically, in the Premier League. These teams like Sunderland who cling on for
parasites.
too long. Yeah, Wigan who clung on for like 2 or 3 seasons too long. I'm sure if we put our minds to it, we could come up with a few more. You know, every season there's a team that deserves to go down. You know, that's that season that QPR, exactly, Wolves, Derby, the season that QPR had Bosingwa, you know, basically stopping for like a cigarette and a cocktail during the first half, that kind of thing. This season there's not been so much of that. I think that the days of when Palace came up, that was the season after Blackpool had gone down, wasn't it? And Blackpool had gone down with Holloway playing his kind of cheeky chappy attacking football. It was a breath of fresh air from every other promoted team going up and just trying to play 11-man defence. And I think because traditionally it was you save the money and if you go back down, so be it. If you get to the second season, then you can spend some of the money and hope to stay up again. And that's kind of what Stoke had done, and a few others had kind of trod that path. But it then led to all these shitty teams that barely had a squad good enough to stay there, but survived by playing shit, dire football and hoping to get to 40 points before the 38 game limit was up. And I think us going up in that season, I'm not saying it was us that triggered it, but it's moved away from that now. If you look at the teams that have gone up this season, they fancied playing their own style of football. They'll defend a bit, but Chris Hughton's got Brighton playing reasonable football. They've certainly played decent football at Huddersfield, even though it's been really inconsistent. But Wagner's certainly got a style he's trying to achieve. For me, I think that's a good thing. The fact that the bottom half was so close does keep these games that much more interesting. Yeah, Jamibi, well done. You inspired probably 20 minutes worth of rant out of do we feel sorry for Stoke? Did you get the impression that Stoke saw it as some kind of rivalry because they'd done so poorly against us?
Nah, not at all. Definitely, I think if anything, actually, they quite respected us. And the other Stoke guys were like, "Well done to Roy. You've really turned it around. Can't believe." Like, just sort of, just really nice about it. Really, I don't think they weren't sour at us at all. Didn't see it at all as a rivalry. Even actually, there was a couple of police that came when we was in the Harvester, just patrolling and stuff. And then when they walked past, I said, "Oh, excuse me, guys, can I speak to you for a second?" And they came over, and I was like, "You expecting trouble here?" Because there's like quite a few police just, and they were like, "Nah, not at all." And I was like, "Yeah, same." I couldn't think of, just couldn't even imagine wanting to swing at a Stoke fan coming out of here. But I think it's obviously more on the Stoke fans getting pissed off at us. But at the same time, it's like if we came out of the stadium and like if you guys were Stoke fans and I've gone, you wankers, have fun in the Championship, then you're going to be like, what are you saying, all this and that. And that's how it's going to kick off. But I never saw any trouble whatsoever. I didn't ever hear of any trouble. Nah, not at all.
That's good to hear. I always like hearing that Palace fans have been well behaved on their travels, particularly when you've had to go somewhere that's a shithole like Stoke.
It is.
I think so. We've covered Jack Butland crying. We've covered Ruben Loftus-Cheek. We've covered Kelly coming on for Ward instead of everyone's favourite Aaron Wan-Bissaka. We've very lightly covered Benteke coming on for Cabaye, which is a weird change. Have you got anything to say about that, chaps?
Too rash to say he completely changed the game?
No, I don't think that's too rash at all. I think we're adult enough to know that Cabaye played well and Christian Benteke played well in a different way. Go on, take that point and run with it.
No, I honestly did. I think we looked a different team when he came on. I don't know if it was just having a target or I think things changed around quite quickly with a sort of a double hit because there was a time where it's about a 2 or 3 minute spell where Crouch was slotting in between Shawcross and Zuma, and it was absolutely comical because I think it was before Benteke came on, but they just had so much aerial presence at the back, and we were obviously playing nicer football with our players that can actually pass the ball and not just try and use their brute force to move it. And Benteke came on, and then a few minutes later, Crouch came off. And there was a different way we could use the ball. And I just think having that sort of third or fourth attacker, depending on where you view Loftus-Cheek, I think it just opened up sort of more of a three-pronged attack rather than a sort of a central two, and then we take it out to the wing and we think, we've got no one that can beat Zuma or Shawcross in the air, so let's try and knock it back in again. And I think having that, we won a few corners off of it. We looked like we could have almost scored a few of them. But it generally took one of Shawcross or Zuma to contain Benteke or to stick onto him. There was a chance he had that I can't quite remember, but I really wanted him to score. And of course he didn't. But I thought, again, it was a performance where he hasn't scored and he hasn't been scoring this season, but he's been providing and he's been quite useful in other ways. I don't know if that's us having to find other things that he's actually doing right, or whether that's just an area of his game that he seems to be improving. But really, offensively, I feel like without him, it's hard to say, but I wouldn't have said we'd definitely have won without Benteke. I think he was very big for us in attack.
Yeah, I would. Even though I said that, as soon as you started speaking, I was like, yeah, I have got something to say actually. I noticed once again when he came on, he got. I think a lot of people were like, why that changed? But then he got like we started singing a Benteke song,
Yeah.
and people seem to be warming to him a bit. But I'm not sure if that's because we're safe and we don't really care what he does now. But I remember that shot he done. That pissed me off a bit actually. The one that you said he should have scored, because I was like, come on, like. But I've said it in pods before, and I know we've discussed it with other players. They're not coming on, and he's not going, oh, you know what? Today I'm actually going to play shit. I'm going to do really crap just on purpose. Like he doesn't mean to do it. I think there's so much pressure on him.
Yeah.
And, I think it might be an unpopular opinion, but I wouldn't even mind if we kept Benteke. And I've got a feeling if he has like a fresh summer and just clears his head out a bit, it just says, right, when we come back the next season, I'm going to be up there. He's got Sorloth there as a little bit of competition, fair enough. But, and just, I don't know, just play better, basically. I just think if he just gets to reset his mind, and that they might do it for him. Even if they start playing some like friendlies and stuff, you never know. He might even get his form back in the preseason friendlies if he gets his chance to come back and play. And even if it's against like bloody like League One teams, it doesn't matter as long as he starts scoring again. And once he gets that, I'm sure in training he's doing something right. As like we've said before, with even like with Wan-Bissaka, if something's wrong, they won't play him. They obviously think that he can come on and score a goal and he can be this good player that he was always meant to be. So yeah, and I think, like I said before, with the second goal? I think it was the second goal where he sort of chested it down. And like Jake said, I know he's a striker, but it's not only about scoring goals if we're scoring goals from him. So he might not be getting the assists, and obviously he didn't get an assist for that one, but if he's chested it down and banged it forward, and if he wasn't there, what would have happened if it was someone else? You know, would it have happened? But yeah, unpopular opinion, but I know when I said it to my sister on that after the game, she was like, shut up, man. But I wouldn't care if he stayed. I would actually quite like him to stay because I've got a feeling, you heard it here first, he's going to rip it up next.
No, I think you're absolutely right. If I can just jump on the back of that, because there was a spell, I think it was around this time last year. It was like April or May, where Benteke got like 7 in 6 or 8 in 6 or something outrageous. Well, unthinkable this season, but he goes on these runs where he's on form and you think he's not going to miss. Like he's going to score. He's going to score every time it falls to him. You think he's going to score. Obviously, this season it's been the opposite. You think, oh, yeah, come on, do something with it and keep the ball alive at least, please. But I think there is something quite valuable in that he does bring to us. And I think, as you say, it's a lot easier to think about that when you are taking points from games and he's not missing penalties that are throwing points away, or he's not doing stupid things. But I don't know how we would replace him and what we would try and do to replace him, because I think he is such a big part of how we play, even if it's not how we score. He's in our sides, and I mean, I know Loftus-Cheek's been receiving a lot more sort of goal kicks and clearances and stuff, but he hasn't done anywhere near as well as Benteke does from them. And yeah, I'd like to see him stay actually now, to be honest. But then again, if he goes on another sort of 12-game streak where he doesn't score, I'll probably hate him again. So it's hard to say.
That's not going to happen. He's not going to. This is a temporary blip, just like it has been all season, and he'll come out banging them in next season for sure. Our next game is against a team who's just been relegated without even having to touch a ball. So we're recording this on the night that Southampton have thrashed Swansea 1-0 with a goalmouth scramble of a goal from Manolo Gabbiadini, which doesn't guarantee Southampton Premier League football next season, but pretty much does, because it would need something stupid like a 10-goal swing to fuck them. It now is Swansea all but down, West Brom going down, Stoke clinging to the bottom. I think the Darren Moore has just been given Manager of the Month for his great work in really just prolonging the inevitable. But what do we think is going to happen here? Is this West Brom wanting to go out with a bang, or if you are a West Brom player here, I'm assuming that you press the panic button on exit strategies and everything else to get out of this club if you want to keep playing in the Premier League. Now, does that mean that you go hell for leather against Palace, or does that mean you start misbehaving to try and get a transfer? What do you think this means for the final match of the season, Jamibi?
Even though I wasn't at the whole game when we relegated them, I got a feeling it's going to be something quite similar. I'm really quite confident, and I'm gutted I never put this bet on, because it was a bit of a mad one when I was thinking about it. I was like, people at work were like, what do you reckon about Leicester? And I was like, tell you what, mate, we're going to beat Leicester, we're going to beat Stoke, and we're going to beat West Brom, and I'm going to bet on it. And then it's one of them things where you just think, why the fuck didn't you put that bet on? Because now I'd be like, that bet might come in, So, yeah, I don't want to be too confident, but I think it's going to be like maybe like a silly West Brom mistake, and we're just going to go all guns blazing. I don't think it's going to be a repeat of that Tottenham game at all. But at the same time, they've got nothing to play for, but nor do we. And like you quite rightly said, are they going to think, if I come out against Palace and score a hat trick, is I don't know, like, is Palace maybe even going to think, fuck it, let's buy him, he done good against us? You know what I mean? Like, they're playing to stay in the Premier League now. They're not. There's nothing about the team. They probably don't care now. They don't want to stay in the Championship. And yeah, I would. I'm more inclined to say that. Are we going to do scores, or is that to? Let's go 3-1. I think it's like the third time I've gone 3-1 Palace, so we'll just do that. Stick with that one.
It's just the stick or twist. At some point, it's got to come in. Come on, Joe.
Yeah.
Give us some alternative non 3-1 views.
Okay, well, here we go. So I don't know if you saw Chris Brunt's quote earlier, but it was very good. He said that if West Brom stay up, that Darren Moore deserves a knighthood. And he then went on to say, I'd even vote for him if there's an opening for Prime Minister, or something ridiculous like that. So there's a lot of confidence in this man, Darren Moore, definitely. I think it's going to be a massive blow for them being relegated out of their hands tonight. And I honestly think some of those players, especially after the result on Saturday, were starting to believe. They were thinking, we can't, can we? We can't, can we? And they kept sort of riding it. So I think it's going to be quite a come down tonight to, okay, yeah, we got our hopes up, we're finished. I think it all depends on where the first goal goes. I think if we get the first goal, I think they're going to go, oh, fuck's sake, we are down, we are shit. And I think we could have a right party at Selhurst. I think if they get the first goal, I think they might just play their hearts out. Nothing to lose. As you say, neither team has got anything to play for. But except sort of personal contracts, personal gain, I think you probably want to play to prove, okay, this bloke deserves to stay in the Premier League because of X, Y, and Z. Solomon Rondon, look, he's a Premier League striker, or whatever it is. Despite all of that, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw.
Okay, I'm gonna interrogate your 2-2 draw a little closer. Are we winning and we throw it away, or do we claw back when they go 2-0 up or 2-1 up, and then remember we're going down anyway and stop giving a shit?
I think we're going to go 2-0 down, you know.
Yeah, I think that's the most Palace way of doing this, is to
absolutely.
have Wilf grabbed the team by the scruff of the neck and dragged them back into it is certainly the story of our season this far. Now, we've chatted for way too long, considering it was a dire game, and we're talking forwards about a dead rubber of a game as the last season, or the last game of the season, rather. Is there anything else either of you would like to talk about, or do we put everything else off to the off-season pods where we will be clamouring to talk about anything that isn't dim and distant transfer rumours?
I've got one thing. I'll ask Amelia what she's going to do for her accumulator next week, and I'll post it on the subreddit if anyone wants to get a winning accumulator, because she managed to. We basically went to Stoke and back for free and profited from her accumulator, which she decided to split with me because I put the money forward to do the bet in the first place. So we put £3 on bets in. Well, 12 quid overall, and then we had Palace to go down 1-0 and then win 2-1, and then I don't know what she had West Brom to beat Tottenham, which was the craziest one. But I'll ask her before next week to give us her accumulator and put it on the sub. So if you want one, go for that. But other than that, no, I think, like I said, after this we're probably going to want a load to speak to. So leave it till then, unless Jake's got anything.
Mystic Amelia, eh? I can't wait. The only thing I will say is there absolutely anything we can do to pry Jay Rodriguez away from Burnley? Because if there is, please tell me and I will fucking sign him myself on Saturday, because I think he's a fine player. He'd be a good addition to our team. One of the only ones I reckon we've got a slight shout of getting that we actually want from that West Brom team. But I think being a Burnley boy and then playing Europa League football next year, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. He's not black. He doesn't speak French. So the Palace tradition, and then on top of that, the Roy sign-in, it doesn't come from Scandinavia. No one's never heard of him before. And then the kind of Yaroslav Yak thing, where that the scout chap who, the Palace analyst who came out in that UAE paper saying, oh, this is one of ours. He's bought just for the numbers and he's going to be worth 10 million next year. After watching him in that under-23 playoff game, perhaps be the shittest player I've ever seen of all time, I'm going to steer very, very far clear of any recommendations to do with Jay Rodriguez, because I clearly know nothing about football compared to Palace, who clearly know everything about football. I think that wraps it up, chaps. Yeah.
His middle name is Enrique, though.
What?
If that counts for anything.
Surely Jay Rodriguez, that must be not Yaroslav Enrique Yak. That can't be.
Yeah, sorry, that is Jay.
Yeah. Jay Rodriguez a few years ago, before he got broken, when he was at Saints, I think would have been awesome. But yeah, I just don't know. How many has he scored this season? It's like 5 or something, isn't it? But then I guess you got Alan Pardew making you impotent the entire season. It's probably not the best start to any season.
Yeah.
What is he now as well? He's got to be
28, and he got 7 this season. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the Prem, that is. Versatile. Can play left wing, right wing, striker.
Yeah. I honestly don't know. He doesn't set me on fire. That's kind of where I'm gutted that Southampton aren't going to go down, because I'd love to have picked that team apart and taken, Charlie Austin, yeah. Do you know, now, this is something we should be saving for the summer. Do you know who's played up front for Fulham this season? And let me just check the stats.
Alexander Mitrovic.
No, there's another one.
Oh.
Ex-Palace player.
Oh. It's not Bamford, is it?
No. He scored 3 times in 26, which probably underlines why Palace let him go. It's Rui Fonte, the brother of Jose Fonte, who has travelled around Spain and Portugal's kind of top and second divisions, found himself at Fulham this season, has played 26 times, got 3 games, Sorry, 3 goals. He's the kind of person I could see with, if Fulham don't go up, I reckon Palace, because and again I'm treading all over what we're going to do in the summer, but I could see in the summer Roy is a little bit canny. I think Roy, rather than overpay for a Premier League player, may well be looking at some of those Championship players, because that top 6 has actually not been too bad, with the exception of Warnock's Cardiff, who fuck knows how they've got where they've got. Those other top 6 Championship teams really aren't too bad, and worry me a little bit, because some of them can actually play football, which is often the death of a Crystal Palace victory, is when you come up against a team who can actually kick a ball. But and that's assuming obviously Jamie Vardy doesn't phallus some of the Royden blue WKDs next season. But we won't know that until the end of the World Cup, when clearly Jamie's going to be lifting it alongside, Swansea's shite Alfie Mawson or something. But hopefully between now and the start of the World Cup, 4 or 5 England centre-backs get injured and James Tompkins gets called up, and then we've actually got a chance of winning it. But we will see. Right.
What about Pal Alexander Kirkelvold from Hobro, who's tearing it up in the Danish Super League at the moment? He's a big Norwegian striker that we could sign, surely.
Never heard of him. He's from the Norwegian Super League. That means it's like a nailed on dead cert to be a Palace signing with Roy at the helm, I'd have thought.
Yeah.
Particularly now that goalie's gone. What was his name? Was it Rono, or whatever his name was? Ronau? Now that fella's been signed. Bromby got rid of him and he's gone somewhere, so we've got no backup goalie. So.
Oh, it's not the right time, but I really feel like we could do with Alex McCarthy back.
Did you see him punch that bloke in the head tonight?
Yeah, he nearly knocked him out, didn't he? That was poor.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Again, for the summer, be happy to talk about Alex McCarthy, because I think he was the shittest goalie I ever saw put on the Palace shirt. And I saw an awful lot of Kevin Miller. So, Well, thank you for joining me, chaps. And thank you, everybody who's survived this far into listening to the pod, because the last 10 minutes has kind of been drivel since I started talking. So, only one more pod that you have to listen to before the season's out. And we get into, we'll get Panda on. Panda's promised a D-Stock Panda date pod talking about West Brom next week. So we'll see. And then we're going to get into Panda transfer territory for like 3 months whilst the World Cup's on. Hopefully we don't sell any of our really good players. Although I'd be happy if we did sell Heno, although he's out of contract. I'd be happy if we sold Wardy. He's out of contract. I'll be happy if we sold Kabay. He's out of contract. There's a fucking lot to talk about in the summer. Anyway, thank you very much.
Cheers.
Cheers.